Work Modern podcast has our first guest ever. And I'm really excited to have these two wonderful women because this is really builds on our last episode with regards to how Microsoft is leveraging artificial intelligence for employee skilling. So without further ado, I'd love to have Cindy and Eileen, introduce themselves a little bit, and then we'll talk a little bit about how we use AI in our workplace for employee skilling. So Cindy, go ahead, and then we'll do a little bit of intros here. Go ahead.
Hi, everybody. Hi, Cindy Healy, and so I'm a senior director within our sales skilling organization, and we're part of Worldwide Learning at Microsoft, and been with the company 20 years, and super excited about all the things that we're doing in AI, and to talk with you here today.
Awesome. Thank you. Thanks for coming.
Hi.
Eileen.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Eileen Mackey-Downing. I am a senior learning manager in Cindy's org. I am on the content innovation team here in Worldwide Learning at Microsoft, and I've been with the company about 4 years.
That's awesome. Well, thank you both for coming. I think why are you all here? So basically, a few weeks ago, I and every other Microsoft salesperson that I know of, we all took our first AI training class, not class on AI, but a class taught and really evaluated by an AI persona, which was the first time I've ever role played with an AI persona, and in a way that was evaluated. I've done it before on my phone before a sales call where I'm like, hey, let's, I've given, Copilot, like tell the Copilot, like, you are a CMO and I've got to have a conversation with you about dynamics, whatever. And I've done that before, but it was never in sort of like this educational setting where I would get like a scorecard and a review afterwards. So that was the impetus. Me and Grant were like totally thrilled, by the way, by the work that you guys have done, because it was really cool and I got a lot out of it. But my question to both of you, maybe, I'm not sure, maybe you first, Cindy, but either one, like, how did we get here, like as a company, to using AI for employee skilling? Because I've only read about it in a hypothetical context. I didn't realize that it was so like game ready for, production ready, as we would say. Like how did we get here? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to give all the credit to Eileen, but I'll give you a little bit of the backstory. As these capabilities are coming online, right? The company that Eileen had been talking to, they have just been on this long journey, this roadmap. I think initially when they started talking to you, right, Eileen, it was not good. It was not yet AI. There was actually a person sitting behind the coaching capability, but they knew they would get there. So they knew they would get there, and that worked out great with our timelines. And so now we're able to offer just the first of many experiences that we expect to do using AI. But the first experience where you can have this conversation and get evaluated against a rubric, get some kind of feedback, whether it's the pace of how you're speaking, the tone, and those kinds of things, as well as, are you hitting the right notes? And so it's really Eileen's baby. It has been since day one. She came to me 2 years ago and said, I think this has huge potential for skilling people. And so at that time, it was really just an idea. And so I was like, go for it, because it wasn't costing me any money yet, right? So it's like, go for it. You could keep your eye on this thing, keep it going. And she started taking it through all of our compliance and security checks. And meanwhile, they're just growing their capabilities. And so we really started our first pilot late last year. And then this year we've just been learning and figuring out how to do it at scale. And so the conversation that you're having is really the culmination of a lot of learnings, and we're getting so much feedback as we were able to like do this first conversation at scale, and it's incorporated so many lessons that we've learned along the way, like I was saying. So Eileen, I'm tap dancing around it. Why don't you give us the details?
Yeah, love to hear more, Eileen, for sure.
Yeah, so about 3 years ago, I was in a meeting with thousands of other people. Satya was speaking, and he challenged everyone to, I'm pretty sure he said, ride the AI wave. And this was a long time ago. And as background, I used to support over in the Azure solution areas prior to moving over to Worldwide Learning. So AI was something that was a little bit familiar to me. So when I was approached by this company, or when I got wind of them and sort of made contact with them, I was like, okay, AI, this is something that we've been told to, hey, look into this. This could be something big, this.
There might be something there.
There might
Yeah.
be something there, right? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And also, I come from a language teaching background and a higher education background. So to me, when I saw this solution, although it was archaic at that point compared to what it is now, I was like, whoa, there is definitely something here, because essentially the application that you took and many other people took the course on, it's a third-party application that, like Cindy mentioned, we're working with them to get onto the Azure Marketplace. And at the beginning, it basically, you had to do a lot of work to train the course. Now we build them pretty darn quickly. But so we sort of went through this process with them of getting them. Microsoft has very stringent compliance and security first, of course. That's our number one job. So making sure that the application was secure and compliant for use inside of Microsoft took quite a long time. Once we passed those guardrails, we were able to, put it inside Microsoft with the employees. And the wonderful thing was, because our compliance processes took so long, the app changed so much, so dramatically between the beginning and where we're at now. So yeah, now we've got courses out with thousands of learners. So it's wonderful.
So I have so many questions, but I guess I'd love to hear sort of like what's been the feedback. I remember taking a survey, and I'm sure you've had thousands of surveys back. Like any sort of preliminary survey, insights, good, bad, improvements that you've heard from the field sales organization?
Yes, we have. If there is one thing that I will say about generative AI enabled skilling, is that it raises emotions in people. We have a lot of survey feedback. Typically there's something like around a 5% survey return rate. We have 30% plus return rate on our courses. And so loads of data.
So strong emotions on
strong emotions on both ends.
Yeah.
And when we go into our Power BI reports, we have one column that's where we've got the positive, the other column with the negative, and I always go to immediately to the negative, because I think this is where we have to learn right here.
Yeah.
The vast majority of feedback is positive. It's like reading fan mail. People also see it's wonderful. This application is built on Azure OpenAI service, so it's an excellent sort of demonstration of what a RAG pattern can do on Azure OpenAI service.
Yeah.
And so they love it for that purpose, because it's a demonstration of the solution, right?
Yeah.
But also because it's changed the way that people are interacting with training. Normally we it's a one-way interaction. We look at something on the screen, we read it, we absorb it, and then we go away. But now people are required, it's a two-way thing, which when I go over to that negative column, there's a lot of people who do not like interacting with AI. They're uncomfortable with it. Perhaps they feel like they're not 100% certain that it is secure. So there have been some, maybe a little bit of I'm not quite so sure. This is like a private space. So we needed to give a lot of extra reassurance about that. And also there are some people who just think I'm beyond this. I don't actually, this is
I'm better than this.
I'm better than this. I don't need to be doing this course. But overwhelmingly the feedback has been really positive. But look, we always have something to learn here. And we have learned a lot, even just over the course of this year.
Well, go ahead, Cindy.
I was just saying, when you think about it, this, like you said, you're practicing with your co-pilot, you're practicing on your phone. I know when I do things, I'll record my talk track ahead of time into my voice recorder 20 times, but this is a thing that it's like, it really simulates you talking to an expert and who's going to provide you feedback, but you don't have to suck up anyone else's time. Exactly. It's just however many times you want to do it. I'm curious how many times it took you to pass your course.
Oh my gosh. I think it was like two or three times.
Good for you. That's probably pretty darn good.
I felt like in I was talking to some folks who worked for me, and it was at least that there was so to your point, Eileen, about people who said this was below them. I'm like, dude, it was actually kind of hard. I mean, obviously there were set, clearly there's some criteria that, they're looking for you to say certain things, but as a sales leader, when I talk to other sales leaders in other companies, VPs of sales, and they always say like, hey, Justin, yeah, like why should I invest in AI? Like can AI make my bottom 30% salesperson as effective as my middle 30%? And I'm like, the answer is maybe. And I never have thought about employee skilling as one of those ways, but it truly is, because the best sales training I ever get in my life has always been an opportunity to role play.
There you go.
Like 10 years ago, there's 8 years ago, a lot of other Microsoft people are probably listening to this. They may remember something called Pitch Perfect. And this was and Pitch Perfect training was awesome because, you had to like learn this stuff. And then there was a level of anxiety, by the way, because you had to like pitch it to like a higher up. But to your point, like you had to schedule it, which is hard. And you only had like one shot, which wasn't good. Or like I would, you want to role play something with your manager, right? And which is, or a peer, and you have to like beg, borrow, and steal and thank them profusely for their time. And maybe sometimes you don't want to expose your foibles and flaws to a human, so I think, I assume, so what was the problem you're trying to solve?
So Justin, I just want to chime in on what you just said, because it was surprising to me how many people, and this surfaced first in the pilot. So we piloted this with lots of learners before we released any courses, just to see if this was going to fly. And there were so many people who talked about how wonderful it was to have a safe space. And I was come on, you're field sellers at Microsoft. This is the strongest sales force on the planet, right? But yet everybody feels a little bit humble inside, right? Of like, I'm not quite sure that I'm doing this right. So to have that safe space to go into where you're talking to generative AI that is judgmental by design, not on accident, and is judging you according to, like very set criteria that everybody else is getting judged on. That's a big win for people.
I think so. Yeah. And I think the psychological safety component is like, I don't know, honestly, prior to this conversation right now, I didn't even think about it. But I guess maybe while I was taking the test, I was like, I think in the back of my mind, I was like, I wonder if this is being recorded, and like, is someone going to like review this, like a person going to review this and like come down and hammer me for saying the wrong thing. But then I realized probably not, because Microsoft's a massive place, and I highly doubt that anyone's going to care about my failed attempt at this one test. But you're right. Like establishing that psychological safety, I think, is key to getting people to use it. So when you think about, like, I always think about like, what's the problem we're trying to solve? So like Eileen or Cindy, like when you first went about this, maybe you found this as an opportunity, but like what was the genesis for this?
I think in everything we do, and I'd love to talk with you about some of the other things that we're thinking about, right? This is our first wow experience, right? But we've been creating skilling for years and years and years. And I think the problem we were trying to solve is, how do we have viral moments within the company? And so this is a dream come true, that this is on everybody's lips, that we're getting pings left and right from salespeople, right? It's like, how do we have a viral moment so that people are excited about learning? And it's not not a check the box exercise or something that they have to do.
So that was the problem. Like, how do we make something viral? I love that.
How do we make something viral? And so it's like, we've got to make these experiences not just sticky, but fun. And going up against the machine, I found it very fun. It's like, it's challenging. I'm sweating, right? It's can I do it this time? And the clock is running, and you got to get it done. And so I think that's a lot of how we got here, is just really looking for amazing experiences, because we think our people deserve amazing experiences. And also we want to be incredibly respectful of their time, because any time spent skilling is time that you're not necessarily spending with a customer. So we want to really just maximize that return on investment of your time.
And scale as well.
Yes.
You know, like when you think about those pitch perfect sessions, Justin, that you attended once upon a time. Now times that by 35,000 people. You know, to put on something like that, that's hard, right? And that's a lot of people's time to do that. Whereas with this experience on the third-party application, it's called Second Nature, by the way, we were able to have, we've had about 20,000 people go through this activity in less than a month at their leisure, with nobody's, you know, nobody has had to, no human has had to go in and intervene in that. It's just self, you know, access it.
So where do you, prior to us all gathering today, I used Copilot, shameless plug for our own product. I did a little deep research to learn about employee skilling and AI trends in it. And, you know, it sounds like there's a trend in terms of using AI as sort of like having a tutor, like that can like in your flow of work, you can have it'll like pop, like maybe like a little clippy will pop up and be like, hey, if you know, I see that you're talking about dark matter in your email thread. If you're interested, here's like a little mini course on that. Or you know, do you guys see sort of like AI just in general as augmenting, like in personalizing, and like how do you guys see this sort of, I don't know, over the next 12 months within Microsoft, you know, and I'm curious, like, where do you think this is going to go? And maybe give us a sneak preview in terms of more AI skilling in Microsoft.
Yes. We have this huge appetite and huge vision, and then it's just how do things line up and roll out over time. But we know we will get there. But exactly, things like that where it's in your flow of work. Think if you had a little buddy that is not only encouraging you, but can look at your Outlook, can look at, can listen to your customer conversations and say, hey, how about you try this next time? Or here's a little course that we think would help you. Can look at your, you know, sales data and say, oh, you know, I'm seeing this pattern, or, you know,
or
so
like there's these deals coming. Like you should learn about that.
Or I could see from your calendar, you have this customer on your, you know, meeting in a couple of weeks. How do I help you prepare? And then it's like, how do I help you prepare? Oh, you know, here's the kind of, you know, I've done some research for you. Now, how would you like me to present that to you? Do you want me to make a podcast for you? Do you want a slide deck? Do you want a video? Do you want some flashcards? Right? Just learn, you know, we know that people learn in all different modalities. And so this capability to present that to people and give them more choice in how they learn it, but just so that they do learn it. And the ability to assess, it's like, I can really see that you need to grow this competency or grow this skill. And here's a path to help you do that. That's one of the big things that we're looking forward to.
Wow.
So go ahead. To me, what's huge to me about generative AI in employee skilling and really in education all up is this idea. It's called the zone of proximal development, which is basically being able to assess where a learner is at in their knowledge base and then giving them just a bit more. So, you know, where, like, Justin, you were saying, oh, people were saying that, like, oh, this is, and I was saying it too, this is a little bit below me. How can we get to where the skilling that we're giving to people is at just the right level, sort of like that Goldilocks zone, where this is too easy, this is so beyond me, I don't like, whoa, how did I get into this workshop? You know, we want people to be using their super valuable time at just the right level where they can really maximize from that learning experience.
So it's that personalization that you were talking about, Justin, right? That it's in order for us to give them the best, you know, value for their time, just making sure that it can be customized based on exactly where they are, meeting you where you're at.
So true. I mean, I can't tell you how many times as a salesperson, I've been forced to take classes that have nothing to do with my customer base, what I sell. It's just like, you know, somehow it showed up on my to-do list. Well, if you were to advise, another company, right? So other folks who, let's say, they're in their HR department and they're in charge of employee skilling, and they're like, hey, I know people have AI at their phones now. They have whatever AI system, and they're probably using that to learn from, but how do we implement AI in terms of our employee skilling programs? What sort of high level guidance would you give somebody in another company who's been tasked by, let's say, their HR leader to think about AI for employee skilling? Like where should they start? I know this is a huge question, but
I think the
yeah.
easiest place to start, which I hopefully you'll love, shameless plug, is Copilot,
Mhm.
right?
100%.
That there's so many things that you can do with Copilot, and now with agents within the Copilot, you can just have more control, and it's really not as hard as you think. So to become a prompt wizard is not that hard. There's a lot of things that you can do, whether it's on YouTube or other means, to really up your prompting game, and get that to go viral within your company, right? It's like we just had Connect and performance review season, right? And so I was sharing prompts with my peers of what I was using to just ask a question about ask these series of questions one at a time, and let me just type in my answers, and then you make it beautiful and summarize it back to me. And it just saved me so much time, right? But it's just things like that. It's like, get this going viral within your company where you're sharing Copilot prompts and helping each other master that. Then do the same thing with agents, and get that mastery going within your company. Have somebody host a lunch and learn and show the agent they built, and those kinds of things. It's like, really, you need to break down the door for people when it comes to AI and getting them using it. And then you can think about how do we make it part of our learning and skilling, right? So we've got some things coming out where the first thing, maybe it's a series of courses that people do in a cohort, and the first thing they do is they build an agent that helps them with the rest of the curriculum and get through the rest of it. So we're putting it into use. We're putting it in people's hands. Hands-on workshops work really, really well to get over that hump, right? When we first were hosting, like last year, when we were first hosting things about how to use Copilot, we were doing it with people who we thought would be very sophisticated in their knowledge, and learning that they were really starting at square one. So it's like, how do you create that safety amongst peers, so that it's like, no dumb questions. We can start at the basics, and if you're more advanced for that, maybe come in and be a teacher and lend your expertise.
Oh man, I dig it. Do you guys think that it's necessary to what you said was really interesting, that because it's useful to have a base of people who are already familiar with AI first through Copilot, or and then once you have that sort of general level of AI familiarity, then you introduce sort of AI for learning. Do you think is that a have to have or a nice to have, for a company, considering it? I mean,
I would say nice to have, but it's you're going to get more sponsorship. The more excited people are about AI, the more collective minds that you're going to have, not only for sponsorship, but also for more people saying, "Oh, we could do this, we could do that," right? It
helps
becomes
widen the mind. Yeah.
Exactly. And
Like
some people, unfortunately, are still dragging their feet when it comes to AI. That there's a lot of fear out there.
Yeah. I mean, if we saw that within Microsoft, and we're a pretty AI forward place, then I'm sure other companies aren't. Probably even more. Eileen, you mentioned Second Nature. It's a third party company. How do we, and whatever you can't share, it's totally okay. But how do we make the decision to sort of use a third party thing in addition, obviously, to our own underlying tech? Because I'm sure that's what other companies too are probably thinking about. Like, hey, can we build this our own? Should we buy? Like kind of talk to us about that process. It sounds like you were really instrumental there.
Yeah, sure. So, first of all, Second Nature has cracked a very hard to crack nut, right?
Mm.
And they did it a while ago. They didn't just start doing this, yesterday.
Mm.
They've been doing it for quite a while. They have their own natural language processing system
Oh
that
wow.
that that is built inside their application, and we want to provide our sellers with the best experiences that
Love
are
it.
on the market. And Second Nature, in
It's the
our
best.
humble
Yeah.
opinion, is
Yeah.
is that.
That's awesome. Do you, so if you were like another company and they were like, oh, we could build this on our own, would it be like, you like, are you sure you can build this your own? Because there's something that's probably readily available that's probably pretty good.
Well, look,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
give it a try. Yeah,
Yeah.
and see what the return on
Yeah.
investment is. That's the best
Yeah.
way for you to spend your
Mhm.
time. My guess is that it's probably not, but that would be
Yeah.
up to the
Yeah. It's a
individual
good
use
point.
case.
That's right.
Anytime you're getting employees to go in and use AI and
Good.
experiment, it's a
Good thing.
great thing.
That's a good point.
So yeah.
Yeah. All right.
And
I love that. Like, go ahead. Go ahead. Build it on Azure OpenAI. We love it. You know, if it works, then more power to you.
yeah,
Um,
and for us, it's really, it has been great for us. It's like now that we're getting this amazing response, right? That it just fuels our fire to do even more. And so we have a
yeah.
lot of first party solutions that we are actively working on. We can't really talk about all
Yep.
of
Yep.
them
Yep.
here,
Yep.
but it's absolutely has fueled our fire.
Well, I will tell you that I think as a sales manager at Microsoft, what excites me the most about this is faster um, employee expertise, right? Like there's so much stuff flowing at us to learn, to be articulated about, to be able to persuade, to answer questions on. It seems that like, and that flow has is it's just increasing in velocity, and the education systems that go into to our between our 2 years needs to also improve in a corresponding speed. So like when this thing hit my learning to-do list, I was pretty excited because I'm like, okay, now like we have AI to help us get smarter on AI. And oh, by the way, AI is moving so fast. Like it's not like an old Office product, which I only had to learn about 2 waves every year, right? Like
Right.
this is like finally, right? So to me, I think as a sales leader, this is a great thing for our workforce. And is it going to be perfect? No. Like, did I hear some people complain like, oh, like there's always grumblings, right? But the grumblings are so much fewer than other trainings I've ever done. I think that the vast majority of people were like, hey, look, this is good. Like, I think that the expectation from salespeople is that this is the future of getting great at selling. Um, and I really applaud you and your teams, everything that you guys did, like A+ work. I can't thank you both enough for all the work. Do you guys have any questions for me about anything at all, about salespeople, about how we think about it, like anything comes to your mind? I'm an open book.
Absolutely. We're always open to voice of the learner, right? And so what keeps you up at night about not knowing something? And then what
Mm.
methods do you use to teach yourself or to teach your teams?
Yeah, I think, man, great. What keeps me up at night about not knowing something? I think what keeps me up at night is that there's been a change to a product or a change to our go-to-market strategy that I am unaware of, and I have a customer call in 24 hours, and I'm caught flat-footed because the customer knows it, or their procurement person knows it, and I don't know it, or I say something that is incorrect and I'm over my skis because, or I'm wrong, right?
Right.
So I think that keeps me up. Like there's been like the product, something has been released that I don't know, and I've got a customer call in 24, 48 hours, and like I just don't know. and I don't have the experts on the call to answer it, and that happens a lot now, right? Like, not going to lie, like we have a flatter sales organization. Human experts are harder to get on calls. So yeah, I think that's the first part of the question. To be blunt. Yeah.
No, that's great. I think AI is going to be able to do a lot of that for you,
Yeah.
right? It's
Yeah.
going to know your actual situation, right? Because right now you could ask Copilot those questions. It's like,
Yeah.
where might I
Yeah.
have a blind spot when it
Yep.
comes to X, Y, and Z, and you get something back. But I think, it's not very far off that you can ask that specific question and you're going to get
Yeah.
an answer that is so perfectly tailored to you and your situation that you can have that confidence that you don't have
Yeah.
a blind spot, or that something hasn't, there isn't a new product feature available that you
Yeah.
just haven't had a chance to learn about. It's gonna be right there at your fingertips.
I think, just the last thing I would say, just from an employee skilling perspective, is like there's a lot of there's a lot of worry out there about, like, are my skills atrophying? Do I not have the right certs? Do I not have, am I spending all my time doing like these mini courses in terms of just keeping up with the products without doing like the big certification classes? And I mean, that doesn't keep me up at night. For instance, I do what my boss tells me to do and what big Microsoft tells me to do. And if I could do more than that, like that's great. But I think, like, from an overall learning perspective in the workplace, I know there's a lot of anxiety about, are people keeping up with, the macro trends, especially if you're a technology seller, right? If you're a technology seller, there's a lot of worry, like, hey, am I learning the right stuff to keep up to date? That'd be the last thing. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know how to answer that, by the way, but I think that's a macro
great.
fear that people have.
And let me just jump in with a quick thought,
Yeah.
and then Eileen. But
Yeah.
I think the world we find ourselves in right now, it used to be that you had a job and you would learn a little bit, and
Yeah.
it would help you a little bit, right?
Mhm.
And so you could approach your learning as a side hustle.
Yes,
Now,
exactly.
in the age of AI, it's like, if your job is
Yeah.
in technology, and maybe even if your job isn't, but if your job is in technology or selling technology, if learning about AI and using AI isn't a part-time job for you, you are going to fall far behind. And that's what we're finding. That's what we're embracing in this world of skilling, is we just have all of these enthusiasts. We're turning ourselves into enthusiasts so we can maximize the opportunity and ride the wave versus just get bowled over by it.
I love it. And you live in Hawaii. You know about riding waves.
Yeah. Oh,
Eileen, go ahead.
Dangerous shore breaks for sure.
Oh my gosh.
Maybe a little bit more of a boring question. So, Justin, I'm very curious to hear about, when you think about all of these learnings that you're doing, lots of small ones, some big ones. What are the learnings where you retain the most, where you remember what you walk away from the skilling?
So, again, like, I think every learner, to your point, or is probably different. But I'm a hard-headed guy. Okay, it takes a lot to get things through my thick noggin. So I think, for me, the ones that I remember the most, the ones that are most effective for me, are ones where I have to roll up my sleeves, so to speak, and actually do it. Okay.
Mhm.
If I'm memorizing stuff for like a cert test, or taking a multiple choice test 1,000 times until I finally gets the right one. I'm not saying I did that, but I'm saying it's possible. Like, I don't think so. Doing like the memorization and the multiple choice tests based off of static content, I rarely I don't know how much I retain unless I like immediately put it into practice, and keep a lot of notes, and it's a lot of work. I will tell you that the stuff that I know I've learned the most are the times when I've had to rehearse it. I've had to practice it in like a role play scenario, to a point about your training. I've had a level of anxiety because I know I'm being graded on. To be blunt, like, I think there has to be like you have to get tested. And salespeople need like I love my fellow salespeople, but I'm telling you, like we will go the path of least resistance so we can knock out the training and get it done with, and so we can go on to selling actual deals. So like I think like a role play scenario with a peer or a boss, and then having some sort of stakes involved, or a reward or some sort of competition, something like that is when I retain the most, right? Like if it's like, hey, look, you're doing this pitch perfect with the VP, like don't fail, because that you like that's sort of like the negative type of that's the hammer versus the carrot. But like I also love when I'm in like a competitive scenario and it's like, hey, I get this grade and I could see like my score plus my peer score equals my team score, and the team that has the best score gets a $50 Grubhub for the whole team, right? Like I love that. I love doing like little awards, and I generally put more mental energy into that. So that's my answer to that thing.
Awesome.
Yeah, make us roll up our sleeves and do things, because salespeople, like most of us are in this job not because we're like we don't love book learning for the most part. Okay, like we do it, it's a necessary evil, but we like to be out there with people and talking, and if the training is as close to that as possible, like that's the type of training, like it has to be realistic, right? When I was in the Army, it was all about realistic training. The less realistic it is, then the less people pay attention, and the less, when you're out there for real, will it be applicable? So, yeah.
And
that's
another
a long
question for you.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I know myself, I'm a proud attendee of YouTube University, right?
Oh, wow.
If I need to learn how to cook a recipe, if I need to learn how to, paint a cabinet, or I'm learning it on YouTube.
Yeah.
And I'm learning it from somebody just like me, typically, right? And so where do you see, whether that's short form or longer form, where do you see user generated? Like, do you want to learn from your peers? If we had a platform where they could upload best practices or things, could we become the TikTok? You know what I mean? Could we have an internal TikTok type, YouTube type?
Wow, that's exciting.
Way of learning.
I think I love this idea of like I'm just sort of picturing what you're putting down here, sort of like a gallery or a TikTok of user submitted best practices or videos, something like that. I think that's really, really awesome. The key would be to do two things. One, you need to keep it up to date and make sure it's clean and organized so it's usable. And then the second thing would be maybe three things. One, have it be sort of like in the flow of work, right? Is somewhere accessible, versus like having to click on like 8,000 things to find it. And then three, reward people for submitting content, right? Yeah, for contributing, right? Rewarding and recognizing that is key. To your other question, like, is that something that I think people would really like? I think it would be great, because honestly, hearing from a peer about how they did something and it worked is far more compelling than, no offense to Second Nature, an AI avatar, or no offense to Judson, but like when I hear Judson's talk track, I'm like that's amazing, but at the back of your mind, you're like, well, like I'm not Judson, right? But I would love to hear, like, how did another sales support manager, an M1 in another OU, how is he or she successful, right? And maybe you can even filter on like by role, and that'd be a great idea. Go for it, Cindy. I love it. Well, team, thank you so much for your time and being so open and candid with the world here. I'm sure this is going to be a great podcast episode. And to anybody who's watching this video, I really think that AI, augmented assisted learning, is the way to have a much more effective employee workforce, regardless of the function. It's going to make learning more enjoyable, and you'll be able to really tailor the learning experience to the learner. And I'm excited to see where this goes. Eileen, Cindy, thank you. All right, take care.
Thanks for having
Justin.
us.
Bye.